Hello and welcome to Face2Face with me. I'm Daisy Anwar in a program that brings the world to your screen and where we meet people who make a difference to our lives. In this episode, I talked to Pascal Lamy, the chief of the WTO, or the World Trade Organization, on the future of global trade, as well as the role of the emerging markets in the world, particularly Indonesia. So join me on Face2Face with Daisy Anwar. Indonesia is undoubtedly the largest economy in Southeast Asia, and in the past few years has experienced notable economic successes. However, the country is not without its major challenges. The country's steady growth in the last few years is still mostly due to high domestic consumption, rather than from much-needed export. Meanwhile, ongoing problems such as corruption, unemployment, inefficiency, lack of legal certainty continue to undermine Indonesia's economic stability and potentials. Indonesia's GDP growth during the first quarter of 2013 was at its lowest pace in almost 3 years, with only 6.02% increase compared with 6.11% in the last quarter of 2012. It is well below the 6.8% government target. This is mainly due to the slowing down of export and inappropriate government spending, such as on expensive fuel subsidies. With the global economy still in a downturn, can Indonesia continue to be a star player in the regional economy? And how is the country positioned in the world economy? I talked to WTO's Director General Pascal Lamy at the end of last year during his visit to Indonesia to attend the World Export Development Forum in Jakarta on the challenges and the future of global trade. Hello,
Hi,
Monsieur
good to see
Lamy.
you.
Good to see you. Wow. It's great to have you here on the show, Monsieur Lamy.
Thanks for hosting me.
Yes, it's my pleasure. And of course, you're not a stranger to Indonesia, but you're here this time for the World Export Development Conference. What would you say about the significance of the conference and having it in Jakarta, Indonesia, at this time of the year and amidst the global economic crisis?
Well, I mean, having this conference here, which is mostly about how to build developing countries' capacity to trade and to export, is, I think, a recognition that Indonesia is quite high on the list of countries who've been successful in growing their economy through international trade. Although we know there still remains a big potential for that. The export component of the Indonesian economy is, as compared to other emerging countries, still relatively low. So there is a potential there which deserves to be tapped for the years to come. And as we know that, given the weak shape of the world economy, especially in rich countries, I think the main focus of this conference and the discussion is how can countries like Indonesia focus more on other developing countries, emerging countries' markets, and targeting developing countries' market is not exactly the same ballgame as targeting EU, US, or Japan.
Now, I mean, you're no stranger to Indonesia. You've been to Indonesia quite a few times now. In terms of smoothing the sort of the barriers, the facilitating trade across the borders, how has Indonesia rated, particularly compared to the neighboring countries? Are we on the right track? Are we getting better, or should we be improving in certain areas?
No, I think Indonesia has improved, but still quite a bit of way to go in order to match the sort of ASEAN/Asian standard. Now, you cannot compare Indonesia, which is a huge country, with Singapore, which is a small country. But if Indonesia could inspire from what Singapore has done, for instance, in logistics, that would leverage a big part of your potential. And there still are, as we know, insufficient infrastructures, so that production systems in Indonesia are better connected with trade systems elsewhere. You still have, in some areas, a sort of energy distribution which has to be improved. There still are, in a number of areas, regulation, sort of bureaucratic interventions that are too heavy, maybe not for big businesses, but for sure for small businesses. And we know that a lot of jobs that can be created through expanding trade are in small businesses. So, in a way, it's the whole, it's the whole area of cost of doing business,
which needs to be greatly lowered.
Which exactly where there has been improvements, but there still is quite a lot of work to do, including in things like corruption, for instance, is sometimes an unfair tariff on what people have to do in order to trade more.